Okay, so this is going to be, it's kind of a multi-part, well, it's a single video, but we're going to talk about a number of different things here. So this, you've seen Chanel on quite a few of the videos. This is Kiki, and Kiki was we were hoping we'd be announcing a pregnancy about this time. Actually, puppies not far from now, but yes, that didn't happen. So
it would have been puppies in a few days from now.
Yes, so she's such a pretty girl. It's really a sad situation. So she ended up getting what's called a closed pyometria, and she had to be spayed. And so I've done videos on pyometria, but I think you're going to get two slightly different takes on this, because Chanel's now educated on this because she's been through it. I'm somewhat educated about it because I've seen this on other dogs in the past. Chanel's been talking to some vets in the process of deciding what to do. And so we had a little bit difference of opinion to start with, and so we're gonna. None of this is rehearsed, is it?
No.
We're just gonna have a discussion about it, and we're gonna see what we think the common consensus now is about pyometria and what you should do.
And we had a difference of opinion in the beginning because we've been fortunate enough to not be have any experience with pyometria.
I haven't.
Not a lot, right?
Oh, they've all cleared up.
Right.
They've always cleared up.
So this is a very unique situation.
Right. So let's talk about her and what your experience was in her behavior and what happened. So why don't you give us the front story on this?
The whole story on this is that she had come into heat, and it was unusual. It was very unusual. We did progesterone tests where she had, on day 4 of her heat cycle, she was reading like 22 and like very no solid like actual bleeding, just very faint. And so it was a very weird heat cycle. Well, about a month after that, her behavior changed. And as her behavior changed, and this is the only reason why we were able to catch this early, is because she had just not been herself. And first things first, I took her temperature. She'd run a higher degree temperature than what she normally runs.
What's her normal temperature?
Her normal temperature is 99.
Quite low.
Low.
For dog, yep.
Right. And her temperature when I caught it was 101.6. And she was not feeling well. She was not acting herself. She didn't want to eat. She didn't want to go outside. And so I then brought her temperature down until we could get our vet.
How do you do that?
I did the wet towel method, where I wipe her ears, the inside of her ears, her pads of her feet, feed her ice cubes because she didn't want to drink her water, she didn't want to eat her food. So whatever I could do to help her, because she just had no interest in doing anything and just looked sad. And so luckily we got our vet on call. At the time I had COVID, so luckily we've got a wonderful vet that was able to move some things around, and where I could have antibiotics delivered to my front door so I could then take care of my sick dog and my sick self. And what are you doing? And so anyways, 7 days later, actually no, we gave her antibiotics, and she went down to 99 again from 102 basically.
So we thought this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then on day 7,
we chose a drug, by the way, that wouldn't affect the pregnancy too.
Yes.
So anyway, keep going.
Oh, what's that drug?
I started giving her sulflaxin.
Mm-hmm. That was first.
And then we were able to get the vet to do something on Monday to deliver some drugs, and then we used...
no, we did that for the first 7 days.
Okay.
So we had her on that, which was safe for pregnant dogs, because we assumed that she had a pregnancy, and our first fear, as soon as she had a fever, was pyo, because of what, when pyo can occur. So... Pyo
being pyometria.
Yes.
Which is Latin for pus-filled bag. Doesn't sound very nice.
Yes. And she had no drainage.
Right.
She had no discharge.
Right.
So, scary situation there. On day 7 of being on antibiotics, her mood took a very deep dive. She was 104 in her temperature. Called the vet, took her in.
Not a happy dog.
No.
Not a happy dog.
We didn't know it at the time, exactly what was going on, but it was not good for Kiki at all. If we had not been as close to watching this as possible, it would have been not good at all.
We'll talk about what happens here in a bit.
So, took her to the vet, and my vet, which is not our normal Frenchie vet who works on pets, she said, we need to spay her right now. This is obviously pyometra. So we then said, let's do an x-ray and see what's going on. A lot of local vets that are not usually our first pick for breeding or are in our lineup, they are pet vets and they think every animal should be spayed. They don't understand the world. So that's why whenever you're shopping around for a vet, this is why you build a relationship. And our vet that we always used was out of town for a while. So this vet wanted to spay her within the hour, and we wanted to be really sure. So we had them do an x-ray, and then once they got the x-rays, they said, we see it, it's Pyometra, and we said, okay, we want a radiologist. We want to be really sure, because we didn't know what was going on.
Well, it's a high-value dog.
Yes.
It's a high-value dog with high-value puppies. And I mean, we'll talk more about this in a moment, but I mean, our primary concern was the health of the dog.
Yes.
But the secondary part about this is the moment you have a spay,
right.
You never have any more
and then
puppies.
we also didn't understand, and the vet at this place was never really able to explain this. We thought there might be babies in there still.
Yes.
And it wasn't until our secondary vet, who was in surgeries all morning, was finally able to get back to us and confirm that when a dog has presumably had Pyometra for as long as Kiki had, using his words, her uterus has been cooking. There's no
And that's a closed Pyometra, which is a
Pyometra.
big difference between an open Pyometra. We'll talk about more of that in a moment. Okay.
And we asked him, is there anything else we could do? Because there's a lot of mixed messages online. Of course, you've got the vets that are like, no, spaying is it. We asked him why, and he said that whenever he was in vet school, that they're taught that spaying is the only way to,
Treat a Pyometra.
yes.
Right.
But
and it's not. That's,
according to him, which this works in livestock and larger breed dogs, you can do did you look at the procedure?
no, but I mean,
There's a procedure where you can go in and drain out
you get
uterus.
you get a catheter in there. You get a catheter all the way through the vagina, up into the cervix, into the uterus. But we'll talk more about the procedure here in a moment. Keep on going with your.
And he said that's high risk, and while it is possible, it would take a very brave vet to do that, and he said that is not me. So we went through
Which is a really honest, good answer.
very
by the way.
honest.
Yes.
Very honest. So we went through with the procedure because my first vet that was looking at Kiki was prepared to go when we said go.
And this is a weekend. That was a Saturday. So there was.
It was a Friday.
It was a Friday. So
And
the
they
problem
don't
with
do
this
surgeries
is
on Saturdays.
we didn't want to go through a weekend with a dog that potentially is going to get into some serious trouble. Anyway, keep going.
Which they said that she very much could. With her fever being 104,
Right.
and even with the towel method, when it was 104, I could only get it down to 103, which is still
Right.
terrible on a dog.
Right.
So we went through the surgery, and according, it really backs up what our other vet, Frenchie, said, was that her uterus had been cooking. The tissue inside was necrotic, and it was all fluid. And not only that, when they went to go do the spaying, that the sac burst, pus went everywhere. So now we had to go do.
Well, I don't know what you call it, but lavage or whatever. They're going to have to,
No, they had to do cultures. I have
Oh,
notes.
okay.
They sent off cultures to make sure that nothing else could happen from this, because this is how nasty a closed Pyometra
So what you do on
is.
a culture is they take it, they grow it in a petri dish, and they maybe find out what antibiotics work against it. So if you get in trouble and antibiotics aren't working, or you think you're in a serious situation, which we were here, a culture is another level of protection to let you know that you're headed the right way with the treatment you're giving.
Right, right. And so now Kiki acts like a different dog.
Happy.
She's a puppy.
We'll
again.
take her outside in a little bit. We'll do a video
She
outside.
is,
Pass along.
which makes me concerned that, in the beginning, maybe she never actually was bred. So the risk for Pyometra
Well,
comes from.
let's talk about the three. What can go on with the internal part, the private parts of a dog. So there's what? Don't draw my camera. There's what?
You can't see the dog.
Okay. So there's three different kinds of problems that you can have: vaginitis, urinary tract infections, and pyometria. There's probably other things too, but those are the common things. And so the treatment that you give is dependent on which of these you've got. So we're going to talk first off about vaginitis. So typically the vaginitis, you see a spike in temperature. The dog may be scooting his butt on the ground a little bit or quite a bit. Its vulva is probably going to be very sore. You may have a discharge, which you would have in pyometria too. But the treatment for that is antibiotics. And as long as you catch it early enough and you get the right antibiotics, relatively straightforward. So the next one would be a bladder infection, a UTI, bladder infection. A bladder infection, a dog typically urinates a lot, might be thirsty, have a spiked temperature, probably won't see a discharge, not a kind of a creamy, pussy discharge. Again, treat with antibiotics, fairly straightforward. Pyometria, two different kinds. An open pyometria and a closed pyometria. She had a closed pyometria, which means that the opening to the uterus is closed up completely. And so all the purulent, nasty stuff in the uterus is cooking away with no way to escape. Versus an open pyometria where the fluids are draining out and you see a nasty, creamy, pussy, white type discharge, might be smelly. That one is a lot more treatable. So now let's talk about temperatures. I used to say to people a temperature of 101.5 or above is a concern. I may have been wrong on that. It may be more the temperature is 102.5 or higher. All the dogs that I've ever taken temperature of, their temperature are typically in the hundreds, but apparently that's not true. So that needs to be revised. And
Which, for us, we know what her temperature is because she stays at home with us.
She's 99.
She's 99.
Yeah, so she was obviously on temperature.
Always.
Okay, so now let's talk about what you should do with pyometria. Well, the first thing is, if you're not going to have any puppies from the dog, spay her. There's no reason to have a uterus in there in the first place. Uterine cancer and pyometria go away completely the moment the dog is spayed. So if you're not going to have puppies from your dog, get the dog spayed at 6 months or older. Get it spayed.
Pyometria can happen whenever your the dog's hormone levels go up. So whether it's AI or whether anything else going on, this is why a lot of people really preach spay if you're not going to breed.
Yes. So pyometria is more common in dogs that have not been bred before or their first heat cycle. They're more common. And if you can treat it successfully, then the recommendation is that you breed absolutely on the next cycle. And what it does is it kind of sloughs off the whole uterus and gets them back into normal mode. And by the way, dogs that have had pyometria that you treated tend to come back in earlier than you'd expect too. So that's kind of interesting.
And you need to watch because talk with other people that have experienced this. You don't always have success stories, so just be prepared.
So with dogs that have open pyometria, the number of dogs that die from that is 1 in 20, 5%. It's not that much. So open pyometria is pretty treatable. Closed pyometria is much harder, and from what I'm understanding now is what you do is you give prostaglandins as the drugs that you use. And what they do is they help shrink the uterus down. The problem with pyometria is when the dog is in estrus, when its uterus is got bigger, this is a much better, more prime time for the bacteria to take hold. And during that process, the cervix opens up, typically around day 11 through 13, which leaves more room for bacteria to get in there. So those are the reasons why. And of course, you could have introduced the bacteria during the AI process. So it's very important that you glove up, washed hands, new equipment, don't reuse stuff. And then certain things like, surgical inseminations are probably more prone to this because, you can get bacteria directly into the uterus as it's opened up. So, but anyway, so there are treatments for this. So just because a vet says, no, I can't treat it, if it's and you want to breed that dog in the future, and it really matters to have a litter, and especially if it's an open pyometria, I would absolutely
get a second opinion.
Well, start on a course of drugs, and then monitor her temperature and get a second opinion, decide where you should go from there. That's what we try to do, by the way, but we had a closed pyometria.
And the course of drugs should be antibiotics that are safe for pregnant dogs, assuming
that she's
pregnant. That you've bred her.
For at least 10 days. Okay,
right.
So now we're going to talk about what is the future for Kiki.
Kiki's new future, she's going to be a therapy dog. We're going to try to go through this course to see if she passes, because she's just got an exuberance for life, and honestly, being a survivor of this is fantastic to begin with. She's got a lot of love to share.
Yes.
And a therapy dog is different from a service dog. And a therapy dog is also different from an emotional support dog.
Okay.
Therapy dogs are often sent in hospitals or crisis situations, natural disasters, where people need to have a moment with a dog. You can't look at a dog and not have a moment of
people who feel crappy in hospital.
Yeah.
They have a moment of not feeling crappy when a dog comes around.
Yeah.
You know why? Because dogs are
Good
the
therapy.
bestest animals in the world, and they love human beings. And
Blood pressure goes down.
Evolution has got this relationship between humans and dogs, and it's a great relationship.
And in turn, studies have shown that therapy dogs have a higher level of I cannot think of the word. They're happier because they get to have a job, happier than most pets that don't.
Yes.
Because dogs love us too.
Yes. So to me, it's a sad day that we didn't see any. What would have been some very pretty puppies
Yes.
from her. But you know, the good news
Kiki is
is
a wonderful mama and had wonderful babies in the past,
Yes.
and that was heartbreaking. But also, it was heartbreaking watching Kiki walk the line of death.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, right.
And we
So,
had to make the decision that was for Kiki.
so the back end of this is we don't get puppies. Hey, it happens. But Kiki hopefully is going to be having a great life where she'll be interacting with a lot of other people, and that's putting a tear in my eye just talking about it. So let's take Kiki outside so she can have a run around so we can see how Kiki behaves now. What else we got to add to this?
Well, to kind of add to everything, we're trying to seek a lot of advice and opinions from people who have been there, multiple vets. We had, I think, 4 different vets involved in this, and then we had about 3 different breeders. And so we had a lot of opinions going on into our decision that we took in that we thought were very important, which, again, I know we've preached this before, get multiple opinions to help you make your decisions. So our vet that did, assume that how long as she had been having this and having, the battle of the fever and whatever else going on was correct, because when they opened her up, black tissue, they cropped it. Like, if there was a litter, it was...
You don't say anything. Yeah. Another video after this.
If there was a litter, liquid, which sounds gross now that you just showed me that. It's just horrible, but it worked out for the best because she made it.
She made it. She's a beautiful dog. And she's
Yes.
such an affectionate dog. Let's go take her outside. Let her run
She's a
around.
little grizzly bear
She's hot right
junior
now. Yes.
daughter.
Yes.
Yes, she is.
She comes from England,
Debbie,
the UK.
Debbie Hart.
Debbie Hart in England.
Yes,
Which,
yes.
and Grizzly Bear Jr.
She's been with us for what,
Yeah.
2.5 years?
Grizzly Bear Jr. passed away this past
Grizzly
year.
Bear Jr. passed away this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And Kiki's no longer to pass on the Kiki genes,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
Hey, it happens.
I was
though.
sure hoping. Man, I
there's a
had my
lot of-
heart broke.
a lot of tears that day.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Yes, there was.
Yes.
Number one, we were worried about her.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Now go back to Mama. She's a good girl.
Good, babe.
Oh, she's a beautiful dog. Beautiful cat. Beautiful, nice, short little thing. Looks like a little bread box. But besides,
Never met a stranger.
yeah,
Oh, that's a mermaid pose.
yeah.
Yes.
Mermaid Kiki.
Okay. Come here, Mama. Come here, Mama. Come here. I know.
And then she's, Chanel, you were saying she's even more playful now.
Yes.
So we wondered whether there was a low grade thing going on.
From the get-go, the weird heat cycle. The
Yes.
very weird heat cycle.
Yes.
And so, again, it kind of goes back to what you're saying, how you get Pyometra.
Yes.
We think that, the pregnancy never took.
Yes.
She couldn't have been. She couldn't have been pregnant from the get-go. So the vet that told us that the puppies were liquid probably was too horrible because there were no puppies.
Yes. Yes.
So,
One of the things that I do see people doing when they've got dogs they've had no problems with, they give gentamicin as they're breeding. It's an antibiotic, and they can do what's called a gentamicin flush, which is basically antibiotics that they put into, basically a catheter and flush her out with it. So that's something that maybe we should have done if we thought we had a problem. But anyway.
and again, the only reason why we were able to catch this, if she was a dog that wasn't in our home, if she wasn't under
Yes.
our care,
Yes.
there's no telling what would have happened. We would have woke up one day with her
Yes.
fever being 104,
Yes.
and
Or
on her
5,
final
6.
day.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's how fast it could have gone, which
Yes.
is why so many vets are so aggressive with the spaying talk, because
Yes.
what they're taught in school is.
Yes.
But again, you've got vets that have done experiments that have had success stories.
Oh, well, we've had a success story.
Rottweilers in particular,
Yeah.
per our vet, said that Rottweilers can have Pyometra and have totally fine litters afterwards.
Well, we've had that happen. We've
Frenchies.
we've had that happen. We've had dogs that had pyometria, gave them antibiotics, had a successful litter, and
And
never
it
had
was
it again.
open Pyometra.
Open pie, yeah, absolutely open pyometria, yes. Okay. Okay, yeah, a long time ago. All right, so I think that's all we're going to say on this. Hey, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate people who subscribe to me. It helps me, encourage me to do more of these videos. But do remember, disclaimer here, I am not a vet. I'm not a licensed medical professional. I'm purely a person who's been breeding dogs for the last couple of decades. Any information that you got from this video, use at your own risk. There's nothing implied here, and certainly this should not be used as a substitute for advice from your veterinarian or your medical professional. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come back for more of them. Bye.